Everyone, and you're welcome to this video. Today we're going to be deploying your AI ML chatbot frontend to Vercel using Pulumi. The process of taking an idea and turning it into reality has been nothing short of extraordinary since we started innovating with artificial intelligence. With this technology, machines can learn about and communicate with people while also helping us in ways we never could have imagined only a few years ago. If you've been following along, you might recall our previous video where we used Pulumi and Python to deploy a chatbot API named Katwalk to the cloud. But our AI adventure hasn't ended there, it has only begun. Now imagine this, a Vue.js chatbot frontend seamlessly integrating human interaction and the AI chatbot API. This video is part of the series of AI infrastructure as Python. We'll dive into the creation of a captivating Vue.js chatbot frontend, and with Pulumi, we'll deploy it to Vercel. The complexity of building end-to-end AI ML applications rests not only in the algorithms and models, but also in the several layers of infrastructure required to bring them to life. Consider this. You have a Vue.js chatbot frontend, a chatbot API powered by Llama models, a Vercel cloud hosting environment for the front end, and a ROM pod environment for the API. But here's the catch. You have to weave all these pieces together seamlessly. Individual scripts or manual settings to set up and manage these components can soon create a tangled web of inefficiencies and potential problems. We can use Pulumi here to deploy everything. From the front end to the back end, Pulumi orchestrates the programmatic generation and coordination of every critical infrastructure element. With Pulumi, developer productivity increases, scalability is a breeze, and the complex infrastructure pieces fit together easily. Now you can see why this is important. So let's get started. Before we get to the details of using Pulumi to deploy a Vue.js frontend app to Vercel, let's start with some quick terminology and context. We have our Katwalk frontend, which is a demo Vue.js application that integrates with the Katwalk server to produce a functional web interface for you to communicate with your chatbots. And there's also Vercel, a modern web development cloud platform and hosting provider. Before we get right into this, I would want to point out a few requirements that you need to get this set up nicely. First of all, you need the Pulumi CLI. You need a Pulumi account and access token. You need to have Python 3 installed. You need the Git CLI, and you need the endpoint of your Katwalk server API. And this was what we did in the previous video. If you've not watched that, I would suggest you go back and deploy the API and then come back here for this video. And you also need a Vercel account and an access token. Not to worry about all these things that you need. The links to how to get them will be in the description, and you can just check them out from there. So now let's go right into the interesting part, which is actually the code, the demo, and the deployments. Okay, so this is the main repo, the Katwalk repo with the API and the front end. Let's go into source/app, and we can see that we have Katwalk here and we have Katwalk front end. This code here contains code for the Katwalk server. As you can see, this is Python code for the Katwalk server. And here, this Katwalk frontend folder contains code for the Vue.js app. So if we see app.vue or we see chatview.vue or other Vue.js related things, this is where we find it. But one thing I'd like to say is that you shouldn't clone this repo because you are deploying to Vercel, and Vercel should have access to your own GitHub account. So you might need to fork this repo like I've done here and have then clone your own version of the repo and then work out of there. I also have my Katwalk server deployed to run pod. I think the pod is still getting set up, but this is it right here, and we will need this in just a second. So now let's go over to the command line and do all the setups that we need to run this well. So yes, I am in the Katwalk directory now. So let's go ahead and cd into Pulumi, because that's where all of this stuff is. So now I am in the Pulumi directory in the Katwalk project. So there are some things that we'll need to set. The first one being that we want to be able to deploy this Vercel project. So let's do a Pulumi config set deploy Vercel, and let's set it to true so that we're able to deploy this Vercel project. Once we've done that, the next thing that we want to do is set our Git repo name, because we're going to be deploying the Vercel app from our Git repo. So we're going to do a Pulumi config set Git repo name, and mine is Adoramwodo Katwalk. And let's also set our Git repo type. So let's do Pulumi config set Git repo type, and my Git repo is GitHub. So it can either be GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. So I'll go ahead and set that. And then I also want to set the name of my Vercel project. So Pulumi config set VCL project name, and I want to call it Adora Vercel Demo AI. Let's call it Adora Vercel Demo Chatbot. So what this means is that my URL would be Adora Vercel Demo Chatbot.vercel.app. So now let's also set our Vercel token. I will go ahead and type mine off the screen, but I still want to show you the commands that you would use to type yours. So you will do this, and then whatever your Vercel token is, go ahead and replace this with it so that it sets it as a secret. So now once you are done with all of this, you've done all of the setups for Vercel deployment to happen successfully. So the next thing you want to do is run Pulumi up. And when you run Pulumi up, you wait. We are done, and now we can see our chatbot URL. We've deployed the chatbot before. This was done prior to this video because this video is for the Vercel app, and this is our Vercel app URL. So now let's go over to our browser and see if we can interact with our chatbot using this URL. So I am in my Vercel dashboard, and as you can see, the deployment happened and it was a success. So now let me hit this link and try to interact with my chatbot. So now I will ask my chatbot a question like, hey, what are the colors of the rainbow, while I wait for my chatbot to respond to me. We have it. The colors of the rainbow are in order: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and it says a lot of other stuff. One of the reasons why we don't have to manually set the Katwalk server URL is because the output from the Katwalk server deployment is an input for our front end deployment. Let me show you where this is in the code, just so that you understand what's going on. So this is our Pulumi program, and this is where all of the deployment happens. In the service deployments, we're able to get the fully qualified domain name for our Katwalk server, and we actually set it as an output here. So here we have the rumpod ID FQDN, and this is the chatbot URL that you see actually gets shown to you in the command line. So we have a flag. That's why we set this deploy Vercel flag to true earlier, because it's always false by default. So we have this flag and it's false by default, meaning that only the rumpod server stuff gets deployed. So if we want to deploy the front end stuff, we have to set it to true as well. And once we set it to true, what happens is all of these things also deploy. We get the Vercel provider, the Vercel project, the environment variable, and this is the environment variable. This is actually where we store the backend DNS. So we don't have to manually go and change anything or updates URLs and things like that, because Pulumi does that for us. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.